Hello students, myself Vinita Kasturi. Today we'll have one more practical session of second PUC, that is pedigree analysis. We have done the concept of pedigree analysis in the theory under the chapter Principles of Inheritance and Variation. So today we will be studying about the practical aspect of this pedigree analysis. So, what do you understand by the term pedigree analysis? It is analysis of traits in several generations of a family. So we are going to analyze the characteristics. Traits means characteristics. That too, not only in one generation, we are going to analyze for several generations of a particular family. Or it is also termed as a record of inheritance of a trait in several generations of a family. You're going to make the record. We have to make a record of inheritance, that is the characteristics which are passing from one generation to the next generation. Or it is a record of inheritance which is represented by a tree, which is termed as family tree. The pedigree term itself will tell it is family tree, and we're going to analyze the family tree. So to do pedigree analysis, we have to make use of different symbols. So there are different symbols to indicate different individuals, about the parents, and so on. So what are the symbols used in pedigree analysis? So whenever we have to, if we want to represent a male, it is the symbol used for male is square, and for female it is circle. If there is a line between a male and a female, it indicates that it is a mating process or it's a marriage. And to represent children's, a line is drawn in between and children's are indicated in this way. That is, in this pedigree chart with parents and children, that is one, there is a boy and there is a girl. And when we write these symbols, the first child has to be written on the left, then the second child has to be written next to it. So it indicates, this chart indicates that the first child is a male and the second child is a female. So it is in the order of birth. If the offsprings are represented in this way, it indicates they are twins. It indicates they are twins, and that too it is dizygotic twins. Means they are fraternal twins. They are not identical twins, they are fraternal twins. Means they have been developed from two different zygotes. Di means two, zygotic. So two zygotes are involved. Each zygote will develop into a new individual. Monozygotic twins is represented in this manner. If there is a line in between the offsprings, it indicates that they are identical twins. Monozygotic means which have developed from the same zygote, and these twins will be usually identical. This symbol next represents sex unspecified, means the sex of the individual or the offspring is not mentioned. Is not mentioned. If we write a number inside the square, it's a square indicates male, and if it is number is mentioned inside, it indicates the number of children's. This is with respect to male and female. If we draw a square which is completely shaded, or a circle which is a female which is completely shaded, these symbols indicate that these individuals are affected in sense they are suffering from any genetic disorder. If we represent the square or the circle and it is shaded only half, 50% is been shaded, it indicates heterozygotes for autosomal recessive. Means they have genetic disorder, the mutant gene is present in the autosomes and it is recessive mutant gene. If we draw a circle with a dot at the center, this indicates a female who is a carrier for a particular genetic disorder, and she's a carrier for sex-linked recessive, means that particular genetic disorder or the mutant gene which is responsible for genetic disorder is present on the sex chromosomes. This symbol indicates death, that is, this particular individual is not existing or is not alive. So it indicates death. So if you draw a square and put a slash on it, it is the death of a male. If you draw a circle and put a slash on that, it indicates the death of a female. The next symbol indicates abortion, means before the complete development, if there is a miscarriage or if there is an abortion of a particular offspring, it is represented with this symbol. Next is a square which is completely shaded, which indicates it is an affected individual. But if there is an arrow mark attached to it, it is written beside that, it indicates this particular individual is under the study. To do pedigree analysis, this is the individual who is being focused. Next symbol is about the pedigree chart, where you can see there are two generations, first generation and second generation. Here, the parent, the mother, the female is affected because it is shaded, and male is normal. And the second generation, the first child is a male, second child is also a male, but it is affected and it is under the consideration. And the third child is a female who is normal. If we draw two lines in between a male and a female symbol, it indicates a consanguineous marriage. What is the meaning of consanguineous marriage? It is a marriage between two close relatives. It can be cousins, a marriage between the cousins. So if there is a two lines, it indicates consanguineous marriage. If there is just one line, it is a marriage. Just it indicates a marriage. But consanguineous marriages will be written with two lines in between a male and a female. So these are the different symbols used in pedigree analysis. So pedigree analysis can be studied in different conditions. So the first condition, before we go with that, we should know what is the importance of pedigree analysis. So why we have to study pedigree analysis, what role it plays in the field of genetics. It helps in genetic counseling to avoid genetic disorders. In case through the pedigree analysis, if it is understood that there is a chance of occurrence of pedigree of a genetic disorder, it can be avoided by analyzing the pedigree, that is family tree. Pedigree analysis is also useful when studying any population when the progeny data for the several generation is limited. For example, pedigree analysis is very useful when the progeny data, that is the offspring data, is very limited. So once the phenotypic data is collected for several generations and pedigree is drawn, careful analysis will allow us to determine whether the trait is a dominant or recessive. In genetic disorder, the mutant gene can be dominant or recessive. So by doing pedigree analysis, we'll come to know that the mutant gene is a dominant or it is a recessive. And also it helps in showing the relationship between the family members and helps in indicating which individual is able to express the mutant gene or silently carrying the trait for any genetic disorder. So we'll come to know that if there is any person who is completely affected with genetic disorder, or if there is any individual who is a carrier for genetic disorder, these all things will be cleared by doing pedigree analysis of the family, that too for several generations. So the first condition which helps us to study pedigree analysis is autosomal dominant trait. So this type of condition can be studied in blood grouping, free hanging earlobes, windows, uh, widow's peak, and rolling of tongue. So these all are autosomal dominant trait. Traits means characters. So the encoding gene for these genes are present on any of the autosomes. Autosomes are body chromosomes. So these mutant gene is present on the autosome and it is dominant. The mutant gene is dominant. So what are the features of this trait is the trait gets transmitted from parents to either gender, that is it can transmit for males as well as females, and it affects both males and females equally, and it is present in every generation. Along with these examples, it is also seen in certain conditions such as polydactyly, brachydactyly, and dimples in the cheeks. So I have shown you some pictures about the autosomal dominant trait. That is, here you can see this is widow's peak. You can see the face and you can see the pointed feature of this. The hair is pointed here. So this is called as widow's peak. Whereas in this individual, you can see it is completely round. So this is one of the dominant trait, autosomal dominant trait. Then this is about the free hanging ear lobes. So this is free ear lobes, and whereas this picture will indicate it is attached. So this is a dominant character. This is the dominant character. And a rolling of tongue. Some people are able to roll the tongue in this way, whereas few cannot do this. So the individual who can do this, it is an autosomal dominant character. And here I've shown you a picture with a girl with a dimple. This is also one of the example for autosomal dominant trait. And polydactyly. Polydactyly means more number of digits in the hand. So here I've shown you the picture where a person is having 6 fingers instead of 5. And brachydactyly means the digits will be short. The digits will be short. So these are some of the characters under autosomal dominant trait. And here this is the pedigree chart where you can see the female is affected, because of which both male and female of the next generations are affected equally. It is written here, both male and females are affected equally. And it is going to be seen in every generation. Every generation you can see an individual is affected. Okay, because this is autosomal dominant trait, means it is going to appear in both males and females. So the next condition is autosomal recessive trait. The example is albinism. So here you can see a picture. Here you can see a picture with a group of people who are having albinism. What is the meaning of albinism is, this is due to a mutant allele, mutant gene which is recessive, and that particular gene is actually, when it is not mutant, the actual function of the gene is pigmentation of melanin pigmentation. But as it has undergone mutation and it is a recessive, it is not dominant, it is recessive, these people will have the deficiency, that is the pigmentation will not take place completely or properly, because of which the skin will be lighter, even the hair will be lighter in color, even the eyelashes will be lighter in color because of the mutant gene which is recessive. And what are the features of this character is, It is found equally in multiple males and female siblings whose parents are carriers. Even if the parents are carriers, here you can see the parents are carrier. This is a symbol which indicates a female who is a carrier. Okay, and because of which the both multiple males and females will be affected if the parents are carrier. Homozygous siblings for defective allele, but parents are heterozygous. Means siblings will be homozygous. This is a homozygous condition for the defective allele. And the parents are heterozygous. They are carriers. They are carriers for that disease. Okay. And this is usually seen in consanguineous marriages. Means a marriage between close relatives, okay, such as cousins. Here in this pedigree chart, you can see these are the parents and these are the individuals of the second generation, or you can tell as the first generation. This is the parental generation. This is the first generation, and they both are cousins. They are getting married. Okay, they are getting married, and as you can just take it as a consideration, they are the close relatives. Both are carriers, because of which their offspring or their child, the female child, will be affected because parents are heterozygous for that condition, and she will marry another male who is a carrier for the disease. So all are affected here. Some are affected, some are carriers. So this is very rare, and usually you find it in consanguineous marriages, a marriage between close relatives, close relatives. The next condition is X-linked dominant trait. So where do you find this type of trait or character is in oral facial digital syndrome, which results in absence of teeth. The individual who has this character will not have teeth, or the tongue will be bifid, and it is also associated with mental retardation. So this encoded gene for such character is located on X chromosome, and the mutant allele is dominant. It is a dominant gene. So what are the features are? Inheritance is vertical and is found in all generations. So in all generation you will find the individuals which are affected. If male is affected, all daughters will be affected because male is going to contribute the X chromosome. So the daughters produced by a male who is affected, all will be affected, but no sons will be affected because this mutant gene is present on X chromosome and there is no male to male transmission. So males will not get affected. Only if the female is affected, then it is going to pass to the males. It is going to pass to the males. From male parent, it is not going to pass. So here you can see in this pedigree chart how the inheritance of the mutant gene will take place. Next is X-linked recessive trait. Recessive. Here the mutant gene is a recessive type. Okay. When you compare it with a wild type allele. So the example what you can study here is color blindness, hemophilia. So these are the few examples coming under X-linked recessive trait, and the features include it is expressed only by the homozygous females, but in case of male, both homozygous and hemizygous males can they can be responsible for transmission. If the female is carrier, please listen here. If the female is a carrier, about half of the sons will be affected. About half of the sons will be affected. If the female is homozygous, means already she is affected, then there is a 50% chance that daughters will be affected, and all the sons will be affected if the female is affected or it is in homozygous condition. So in such condition, that is X-linked recessive trait, male population is the most affected one. Male population will be the most affected one because X-linked recessive trait it is. So here, if you go through this pedigree chart, you can see this is a female who is a carrier. Okay, and you can see only male is affected. Why? Because only one X chromosome will be affected in this because it's a recessive allele. So males are affected and females will be carrier. Okay. Only in homozygous condition you will find the females will be affected. The females will be affected. So there is more chance that the males will be affected in such type of condition. Then the last type of condition is Y chromosome linked traits. What is this? So the mutant gene is present on Y chromosome. The best example to study this is hypertrichosis of ears, that is presence of hair on the ear pinnae. Here I've shown you the picture of hair on the ear pinnae. So this is a mutant gene which is present on the Y chromosome. Now, what is the speciality here is, in such type of trait, uh, the characteristics are passed from parents, that is from father to the sons. It is not going to affect the females. If you go through this line, you will come to know the gene for such trait is present on Y chromosome. Any trait linked to Y chromosome is found only in males and not in females because Y chromosome is present only in the males. So all sons will be affected, whereas none of the daughters will have this character. So it is going to pass from father to son only. Okay, no daughters will be affected here. So these are the 4 types of conditions through which we'll get to know how the pedigree charts are going to help in analyzing any genetic disorders in a family. There are 2 problems by which you'll come to know how we solve the problems related to genetic disorders. So the first problem is, if you read it, a woman carrier for a color vision. Okay, there is a woman who is a carrier for the color vision, whose dad was color blind. So a woman is a carrier for the disease and her father is color blind. Marries a man of normal vision. So she's going to marry to a man who is having normal vision, means he is not suffering from any color blindness. But it is written whose father was also color blind. So what proportion of the offsprings will be color blind? So here you can see this is the carrier female because only one X chromosome, she's a carrier means only one X chromosome will be carrying that mutant gene. And they have written her father was colorblind. So only one X is there, so he will be affected. She's going to marry a male who is normal, but his father is colorblind. So if they will undergo a marriage, what type of offsprings will be affected? What proportion of their offsprings will be affected? So these are the representation of gametophyte, that is genotype. So if you segregate during the gametogenesis, these are the gametes produced by the female and these are the gametes produced by the males. So if we see the possible offsprings, we can find that there is a possibility that one female can be a carrier, male will be a normal, and there is another female who is completely normal, and there is a male who is affected. So they have asked the proportion. So what proportion of the offsprings will be colorblind? So only one offspring will be affected. This is the male will be affected. because this male is normal, this female is normal, and this female is a carrier. It is not affected. And the question is, what proportion of the offsprings will be colorblind? So it is 1/4. The ratio is 1/4 of offsprings will be affected. So if we draw a pedigree chart, it will look like this. A carrier female marries a normal male. This is the carrier female, affected male, normal female, and normal male. So this is the pedigree chart where we have to just represent with the help of symbols. There is no need to write anything. The symbol itself will tell you what type of individuals they are. The next problem is related to hemophilia, which is also termed as bleeder's disease or royal disease. So the problem is a man with hemophilia whose mother was a carrier for the disease. So a man is there who is a hemophilic and whose mother was a carrier for the disease, marries a woman. This man is going to marry a woman whose father was also hemophilic. Okay, and they have asked what percentage of the offsprings will be affected or hemophilic. So this is a male who is hemophilic, X chromosome with a mutant gene, and he marries a woman. We don't know what type of woman she is, but they have indicated that her father was hemophilic. So this is the father's genotype, and X chromosome is carrying this mutant gene. So he is going to contribute this X chromosome during the reproduction, because of which the female with whom this male is going to get married will be carrier. This is an indirect question where we have to understand that the female who is going to marry this affected male is a carrier. So the next is the representation of gametes, what type of gametes will be produced, and what are the possible type of offsprings. So when we do this, we'll come to know that there is a female who is completely affected by hemophilia. She is hemophilic. This is a carrier female. This is affected male, and this is the normal male. So what percentage of the offsprings will be affected? You can find there is a female who is affected and there is a male who is affected. This is a carrier female. So 50% of the individuals, there are four. So 50% of the individuals will be affected or they will be hemophilic in this problem. So this is how we will be able to solve the genetic disorders and what type of offsprings will be produced. And with the help of this, we will be able to draw the pedigree chart. So this is the pedigree chart for this problem, where the male is affected, whose mother is a carrier. He is going to marry a female who will be carrier. Actually, I should darken this, but it is not darkened. Then they're going to produce two offsprings which are affected. One is male and one is female who are affected. And this female is a carrier and one male is normal. So 50% of the offsprings are affected. So in this way, we will be able to understand how the pedigree charts are drawn and how the symbols will represent what type of individuals they are. So this is going to help us to understand genetics, and that too with respect to genetic disorders in a better way. So this is about the practical pedigree analysis, which is there for your second PUC practical. So I hope you people have understood this practical. And in the practical exam, this pedigree chart will be kept for identification round, where you have to understand the chart and write the description of that, explain the pedigree chart. So this is about today's practical. We will conclude it. Thank you for watching this video.